That's it. I mean, I don't have social media. I don't really have anything else you guys can pull.
Okay. Is there anything else you know of that could help us?
So this is an interesting statement here. He said, "Is that it?" And she says, "I don't have social media. I don't have anything else you can pull." Could she pass a polygraph? Yes. Like I said, 99% of the time, people will not boldface lie to you. They will not lie by commission. They will tell you the truth, but they will omit critical details. So, for example, when she says, "I do not have social media," I believe her. But did she have social media 2 days ago? Did she have a Facebook account 2 days ago before she deleted everything with Chris? Did she have a LinkedIn account or a Telegram account? Or does she not consider Telegram social media? Maybe she doesn't consider those things social media, so she doesn't bring them up. So someone saying, "I do not have social media," does not mean that they didn't have it back at the time when they were communicating with someone who killed his family. What are some tricks that liars use to mislead? I'm Deception Detective. I'm an attorney trained in statement analysis, and this channel exists to expose lies and manipulation. Before we proceed, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. In today's video, we're going to analyze part of Nicole Kessinger's interview with the police. If you don't know who Nicole Kessinger is, she was the mistress of Chris Watts, a man who murdered his wife and children and buried them. And there's been a lingering question about what Nicole knew. Did she know of his plans? Did she help him plan the murders? Did she even participate in the murders? At the end of this video, I'll get into my opinion on all that, how to deduce the motivations of a liar. Right? People don't always lie just because they're guilty. But first, we're going to look at techniques she uses to mislead and to hide information. Without further ado, let's listen.
Or may tend to prove that things that Chris told us were a lie. You understand that? Mm-hmm. And that's maybe going to...
So at this point in the interview, the interviewing officer is asking for her permission to go through her cell phone. So at this point, she's not under arrest. They don't have a warrant to search her phone. They're asking her to continue cooperating and give them access to her phone records to see any texts or any communications she had with Chris.
Going a little bit far, I usually won't tell people that, but because of your reservations, that's what I'm looking for. If I can disprove something he's told me by a phone records don't lie. People do. Okay? So if I can disprove something that may be important, that's what I need it for. I'm not saying I can. Has it happened before? Absolutely. Is it critical in cases that I've worked in the past? Yes. So that's why I want it. Okay? Again, you don't have to give it to me. You can tell me, "I don't want you to have it. Go get a warrant." I'm not even going to tell you if I go try to get a warrant right now. I'm just asking for you to consent. And again, we can write right here what you're willing to give me, which is the text messages and the phone log. And unfortunately, again, the attachments on some of those text messages. And I'll write it on there, and then you'll just sign it. Okay? Do you understand the questions there? Do you have questions about any of the things that it says? You understand you don't have to do this. You're doing it of your own free will. And I know you're tired, so if you want to let your dad read it too.
He will. Thank you.
That's a good idea.
Can you fill it out before I sign it?
Yep. And just you read it, and if you have any questions, then we'll put on there what we're after.
I'm so hungry.
You should have told me. I would have got you some food. I got food in my car.
It's not staying down. It's just coming.
She hadn't been feeling good. Not because of any, just...
Like, I got sick prior to this whole thing happening, and then I think all of this compounded.
So right when it comes time to ask about the phone records and her signing of her permission to go through them, now we hear that she's sick and she's tired and she's hungry. Maybe all that is true, but the timing seems to suggest this might be a little bit of a manipulation tactic, right? To delay signing the papers, to make people feel bad for her, maybe the officer to go easier on her here. Either way, we should note it. This didn't pop up before. It's popping up right before we get into the phone records. So we're 30 minutes into her interview with the police, and now we're starting to get complaints when it's time to sign a paper. Let's note it. Let's understand that it may indicate sensitivity about the phone records. But also, if I asked you to give me your phone, you'd probably be sensitive about it as well, right? Even if you didn't have anything incriminating. So I can't look too deep into it, but I am pausing to point it out just so you know that I also notice it.
And the fact that I'm sick, it's just not good. I've not really been eating or sleeping much at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. We definitely need to accelerate the case, because the more it takes, the less sure that they are of situations. But on the other end, I think if you do just that only,
You tell me what you're willing to provide to me, and we'll
is that
write it
good
on.
enough?
I just want, like, our text conversation and then, I guess, our phone call records.
So I'm going to put.
So the time and date of the phone call records and then our text message.
Ted,
Could we get photos of him?
Huh?
Could we get photos of him?
Off of
Would
that?
you mind if we got his photos that he sent to you?
Oh, well, they'll be in that text.
All right, so here it's interesting. She wants to limit the search to text messages and phone calls. And if you're familiar with this case, she deleted all of that. I think earlier that day or the day before, right? I'm just getting caught up on this case myself. Or at least Nicole Kessinger's involvement in the case. Right? I'm familiar with the Chris Watts case in general. So she's trying to restrict it to text messages and phone calls. Right? She wants to write that on this consent form. Now, what does that imply? Maybe she communicated with him on other places and she's trying to dissuade them from looking at other places, like if they communicated through WhatsApp or some other secret texting app that people use when they're cheating on their wives.
A text message thing.
So all his photos were sent. There was no apps or anything else used
No,
that you
no,
guys
no,
were
no,
sending.
no,
It was
no.
all just text messages.
Yeah,
Okay. So it'd be an attachment to a text that he sent you.
pretty much.
But
Everything is in the text.
All right, so now we have Nicole saying pretty much. And it looks like the officer is also keying into what I keyed into, where because she's trying to limit it to text messages, right, SMS messages, and phone calls, there might be some other app or avenue they were communicating, and he's trying to fish for that information. Were they communicating anywhere else? And he says if you sent any photos back and forth, it would be as a text message. And Nicole says pretty much. Pretty much is actually a sign of deception, and it's one of the cards in my deception deck. So if you haven't pre-ordered, you can order the deception deck at deceptiondeck.com. It's my 52 favorite rules for spotting lies and manipulation. And here we have weakening modifiers in the grammar suit. So the deck has 4 suits: deceptive words and phrases, deceptive grammar, deceptive cues, and different deceptive concepts. All right, so pretty much is a weakening modifier. And what does that mean? I'll just read you what is on the card. Phrases like kind of, sort of, and seemed like, as well as pretty much, indicate uncertainty. Whether they are used correctly by someone being honest or misleadingly by someone who is lying, any statement following these phrases should not be automatically accepted as true or accurate. So when it comes to Nicole Kessinger here, the detective asks her, if there were any photos sent between you and Chris, would they be an attachment to a text message? She says pretty much. What does that mean? That she's not committing that those are the only ways they sent photos. So the investigator here should dig deeper into that. If it were me, I would say, well, will you give us permission to at least examine any other apps with the capability of sending photos that might be on your phone or were on your phone, just to cover that, and then see if she squirms or not. All right, so pretty much that's one of the tricks liars use to mislead, weakening modifiers. Let's get at least 2 more in this video.
The text and the phone call records,
So,
like all of it.
because we don't have it on tape, we discussed prior to turning the tape on Tuesday, which would have been the 14th of August, you had read some newspaper articles on the 13th and the 14th that regarded this case. You had also had a conversation with Chris at some point during the day on Monday. And on Tuesday, because of what you found, specifically what you said was, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but you found out that his wife was pregnant.
So here the investigator appears to be making another mistake in my book, right? I don't know his whole strategy here, so I don't want to judge him too quickly. However, he is putting words into her mouth, and I always call that out as an interviewing technique mistake. Because once you start putting words into someone's mouth, now you've tainted the interrogation. You've put words in their mouth, and I'm not getting access to the words they would have picked. So, for example, they had a conversation off the record, which is unfortunate, where they talked about why she deleted all the stuff off of her phone relating to Chris. So, off the record, she said that she deleted all her information on her phone regarding Chris Watts because she found out from a news article that his wife was pregnant, and that somehow compelled her to not want to have any contact with him on her phone any longer. Could that be true? Maybe. Could it be a lie? Maybe as well. But because it happened off the record and the officer is basically saying it for her, we're not going to see her own description of what happened. So I'm just pointing that out as an interviewing mistake to be aware of if you are ever interviewing someone, for example, for a job, or if you're an investigator or a psychologist or a 911 dispatcher. I know I have lots of professionals who deal with deception as subscribers to my channel. Always avoid speaking for them. And this investigator here even acknowledges that he's putting words into her mouth, right? So he knew he was making a mistake here.
And on Tuesday, because of what you found, specifically what you said was, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but you found out that his wife was pregnant.
Yes.
And you did not know that prior. And you found that out via the newspaper articles, and that caused you concern.
Right, so he basically drip-feeded all the information she needed to explain why she deleted his stuff off her phone. He fed her her alibi. Could it all be true and correct? Yes. But I'd prefer to see her say it herself.
Well, I just realized that he was lying to me, and I was like, well, if you can lie to me about this, what else are you lying to me about? And it made me realize that maybe his wife was in danger at that point, and it was day 2 too, and she still wasn't home.
And this is why it's unfortunate that he drip-fed her that justification for deleting the messages, because she is not a particularly good liar. For example, here she says, it made her realize, so she deleted all the stuff because she realized he was lying to her. And then because she realized he was lying to her, she realized his wife might be in danger. So what does she do? She deletes everything off her phone. That doesn't make sense. If you thought your boyfriend could potentially be a killer and might have killed his wife or might have done something to her, would you delete all the evidence of that off your phone if you were innocent? I don't think so, right? But again, I have to take logical leaps here that I'm not comfortable with because she hasn't said any of this herself, right? He drip-fed her that entire explanation, but now she seems to have contradicted it a little bit here when she actually has a chance to speak for herself. If she actually thought the wife was in danger, why delete all the evidence that could help bring this guy to justice? For all she knows, she could have been his next victim. If he was really that dangerous, she should probably want him locked up. He killed his wife. What's to stop him from now killing her? Maybe he's a serial killer. But she deletes everything. Also, I'm just going to rewind. Notice when she explains it, she says, well, I just realized that he was lying to me. Just is a minimizing adverb. That is the second technique liars use to mislead. So I'll bring it up here. It's also in the grammar section. Minimizing adverbs. Words such as just, only, simply, and merely often indicate an attempt at minimization. Liars frequently use these terms to downplay incriminating details in context. So when you see the word just, be aware that the person might be trying to downplay something that you should be looking further into. So when she says, well, I just realized he was lying to me, maybe that's not entirely true. Maybe she realized a lot more than what she's admitting here, or she realized it earlier than she's telling us. So we need to be attuned to the use of the word just.
What did that cause you to do with your phone, though?
Oh, what? When I deleted those? I was just kind of grossed out by him, to be honest with you.
All right, so I'm going to rewind. So listen to her justify herself here.
He was lying to me, and I was like, well, if you can lie to me about this, what else are you lying to me about? And it made me realize that maybe his wife was in danger at that point, and it was day 2 too, and she still wasn't home.
What did that cause you to do?
Right, so she realized the wife was in danger, so she deletes everything. Any potential help she might have been to the police to helping this woman. Does this mean she's guilty? Does it mean she was involved? Does it mean she helped him plan the murders? No. Right? But it is a small inconsistency from what probably the average person might do in that situation.
You to do with your phone, though?
Oh, what? When I deleted those? I was just kind of grossed out by him, to be honest with you. I was just like, I don't know what's going on right now, but you just lied to me, and I don't want to see this come over my phone anymore. So I removed it.
So you already said, but you removed text messages?
I deleted all of his stuff because he lied to me. I mean, that's what it was. It was the hurt that made me delete it, and then it was the...
So notice how the officer asks her, so you deleted text messages? And she expands that to, I deleted all of his stuff. Stuff could be any other apps they were using to communicate, right? So let's say they were talking to each other on WhatsApp or Signal or Telegram, right? One of these other communication apps that are encrypted that someone would probably be more likely to use if they were cheating, right? One that someone can get access to. And one that if this was a work phone, I know that they both worked at the oil company Anadarko. If their work provided them with the phones, it'd be much more likely they would use an end-to-end encrypted service to communicate. Even if it was just, raunchy sexting or planning a murder. So when the officer asks her, so you deleted all the text messages, she is being true when she says, well, I deleted all of his stuff. But stuff can mean text messages, emails, WhatsApp, right? I deleted WhatsApp off my phone. I nuked my Signal correspondences with them. But she puts it all into stuff. And maybe down the road, if they find out that she did have those apps on her phone, she can now say, hey, I told you I deleted everything. It's not my fault that you assumed I was only referring to text messages. Right? So this is another way liars lie. With vagueness. 99% of the time, if someone's trying to trick you, they will do it by omitting information, by leaving stuff out, not by telling a direct lie, right? So it'd be a lot harder for her to say, yes, I only deleted all of our text messages. Everything else is still on the phone. Right? That would be a lot more reliable of a statement. But if she had deleted other apps, it would be a lie by commission. She'd be telling us a straight up bold-faced lie. It's a lot easier to say, yeah, I deleted everything that I had to do with them, and then hope that the officer assumes that that only refers to text messages. Right, so if you're interrogating someone about whether or not they communicated with someone on their phone, and they say, well, I deleted everything. I deleted all our stuff. You should ask follow-up questions. Well, was texting the only way you communicated? Or were there other apps you used? And if so, did you delete those apps too and the conversations on those apps?
The lie that made me start questioning everything else he'd been telling me for the last few days.
And that's when you decided to come forward.
Yes.
Okay. So just for context,
Yes.
when people delete stuff off phones, usually we go,
No,
on a
no,
second.
no. It
And
wasn't
that's why I wanted-
malicious at
right.
all. It
And I'm
wasn't
not saying it's
malicious at
malicious.
all. He lied to me. It just hurt. Like, I had never felt like he'd ever lied to me before.
And then another point about this interviewer, when someone does delete evidence, my policy is I always assume the worst. Right? So anywhere I've worked, for example, at a personal injury firm, when we send out discovery requests or requests for information or interrogatories, right, let's say someone had a video camera on their property and they don't provide that, right? Or they don't send pictures if they have pictures of the crime scene, or they refuse to provide something that we're asking for when we're asking them to cooperate, then the automatic response is, well, if you don't provide it, I'm sorry, I have to assume the worst. Otherwise, provide it to me. And then you'd be surprised how many people actually cough up stuff that they withheld. So when it comes to Nicole Kessinger, I maintain that same policy. She deleted everything off of her phone, so she just gave up her benefit of the doubt. I have to assume the worst, that she either encouraged him to do it or helped him plan it or was there. At least that's what I would tell her. Because if you do that, it's more likely that she might rack her brain and say, hey, you know what? Actually, we used this other app, which I can re-download onto my phone. It has our conversations. And it will show you, we were just talking about moving in together. I wasn't helping him plan anything. So I would actually hold that against her, whereas this interviewer seems to be writing it off. And that might just be part of his technique to make her feel at ease, to get her to sign the papers. So there's different techniques, different approaches people can use. I prefer an aggressive approach.
Before, and it was a big lie. I mean,
Right.
telling somebody that you're in the midst of a divorce and then you have a wife that has a 15-week-old baby on the way is a huge, huge thing. And I was very taken back, and it was hurt. And so at that point, I deleted it. I had a few more quick things to say to him, and then I just got rid of him. That's literally what I did. I just cut him out of my life. It would have honestly been like a bad breakup kind of thing. Like, if none of this other stuff would have happened, that's what.
All right, so here she says it would have been honestly like a bad breakup. Would have is a discrepancy verb. So this will be the third grammatical tool you can use to spot, when someone's trying to mislead you or lie to you. And I'll just read you what I have on the card for that one. Words such as would, should, and could indicate hypothetical situations rather than literal ones. Liars often use these terms to mislead without directly lying. So here, where Nicole says, it would have been like a bad breakup, she's not telling us that it was like a bad breakup. There's a big difference. What she did would have been like a breakup. She's not telling us it was a breakup. So we can't assume that this was her giving him the silent treatment, they're broken up and they're done. Maybe they did continue to communicate on some other tool, on some other app. We can't discount that because she hasn't said affirmatively, texts were the only way we communicated. You're welcome to look at all of them, and I have them all here for you. Instead, when the officer asked her, so I can find his photos on texts, she narrowed it down. And then when they discussed other avenues of how they communicated, she expanded it, right? I deleted all of his stuff. So it's still nebulous and unclear to me whether that is literally the only way they would have sent photos and communications. Then on top of that, you have her deleting everything, which to me is a sign that someone just gave up their right to the benefit of the doubt. Does it mean they're guilty? No, of course not. But now I'm going to treat them a lot more skeptically. And if I were to interview her, I would be a lot more aggressive. I'd be doing a lot more bluffing than this officer is doing here.
That's what it would have been. That would have been the end of it.
The information was not destroyed because there was anything in there that would be harmful to you or potentially to Chris at this point, but harmful to you in particular. That's not why you did it.
No,
You did it out of...
Right, so once again, he's putting words into her mouth. All she said was it was not malicious. That's the only new word she's introduced into this conversation. Now he's supplying her with all the other proper responses to explain away, deleting everything, nuking all of her conversations with Chris. On top of that, we also have this small discrepancy of her saying, well, he lied to me, which A, caused me to delete everything, but B, also caused me to wonder if he killed his wife. I feel like the average person, if they suspected their boyfriend of killing their wife, as I said, would not delete all the evidence, especially if that evidence could exonerate them. If she knew this guy was lying to her, manipulating his wife, might have killed his wife, and she could prove she had nothing to do with it, with those text messages, that is a reason enough to keep them despite thinking that he's gross and disgusting. So the story does not add up, but as I will cover at the end of this video, there are different reasons for lying besides being guilty. So I haven't made up my mind about her yet, but just bear that in mind as I talk. Just because I'm anti her lying, and I do think she's lying, does not mean I think she had anything to do with the murder. Doesn't mean I think she's innocent either, right? Just bear that in mind. I'm only a few minutes into analyzing her talking. So we've caught some deception, but deception does not always equate to guilt.
Anything in there that would be harmful to you or potentially to Chris at this point, but harmful to you in particular. That's not why you did it.
No,
You did it out of, excuse my language, this guy's an asshole, so I'm getting rid of him, and I'm getting this stuff off my phone.
That was like me kicking him out of my life.
Okay.
And then, like I said, and then realizing that he lied, that was when I was like, okay, maybe his family is in danger and they're not coming back and they're not staying with a friend.
Right, so whenever she has a chance to talk for herself, it's a lot more revealing. Right, so we have the officer saying, well, you blocked him because, hey, this guy's an asshole. Right, he basically fed her an entire explanation. But when it was her turn to talk, she seems to be contradicting herself. Right, once again, she says, well, he lied, so that made me realize his family might be in danger. She knew he had a wife and 2 kids. If she really thought they were in danger, would her first reaction be to delete all the messages? Maybe so, right? Maybe she's narcissistic. She doesn't care at all about helping the police find the little girls and find the wife. She's just looking out for herself and doesn't want to be embarrassed. So is cutting him off, deleting any conversation so that there's no way she could be embarrassed in the future. And that's why it's nice to take an approach with these sorts of people. Right? Okay, that's fine. You can delete it. You're welcome to delete all the evidence. You don't have to furnish anything to me. But just know that I will assume the worst now because you deleted it. So you're going to have to overcome that obstacle with me. So start thinking of ways that you can prove to me you weren't involved. Otherwise, I'm treating you as suspect number 1. Right? And put them on the defensive. But that's not what is happening here.
Yeah, when did I go over there? Tuesday morning?
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday.
I called you Wednesday morning.
That's when we started discussing. You guys need to get everything that it just.
You can understand the importance of,
Oh, no question. We were.
like I said, people lie, phone records don't, and they really help specifically establish dates and times.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a very good grip on that in this case already, but there may be a time when we go, we need to know something else, and then we would have it. We don't want to lose it, and that's really what it is for us. Is if we lose information that later on we go, man, I wish we would have got that. And we may never even use these. We may never even look at them. But if we have it now, then we don't worry about losing it. So I appreciate you being cooperative and giving it to us.
Yeah.
So the first thing I wrote was text messages between Chris Watts and attachments. Okay, so because we're talking about the photographs, unfortunately, that cause you much disdain. And then I am going to put phone log for calls between yourself and Chris Watts. Your phone number is 720.
Right. And here is the consequence of all the deceptive tricks. Right. It has all paid off. If she did communicate with Chris another way besides text messages, now we have the officer filling in the form, restricting what they're going to search for on her phone, and has been restricted to text messages, photos attached to text messages, and the phone log, right? The calls they made. Now they are not going to search beyond those parameters. She has not consented to that. So if she had used any other apps and deleted them, they're not going to look for that. They're not going to investigate for that. And all of this is the consequence of 3 grammatical deception techniques, right? 3 very simple things. Minimizing adverbs, right? We just texted, right? Or I just realized. So minimizing adverbs, weakening modifiers, right? So I kind of only texted him. Or we pretty much just texted. And finally, discrepancy verbs, right? Would, should, could. Right, I would have texted him, or we could have only texted each other. Right, so those aren't all direct quotes from this. Right, she used all 3 of these things, but not precisely that way. But the ways that she used them did pay off if she had communicated with Chris a different way, because it has convinced the officer that those are the only avenues he should search down. Whereas if you look beyond those words, she never said precisely that the only way they communicate or send photos was text messages. As far as I'm concerned, the possibility is still open that they used a different app to communicate, right? Like Facebook Messenger or Signal, Telegram, any number of apps. So you must be aware of that, right? That is how liars and manipulators mislead. It can be as simple as the grammatical constructions they choose to use. And those 3 are in the deception deck, as well as many more. And if you have binged all my videos, any concept that is in this deck is free here on the channel. You do not have to order the deception deck to get access to all these different techniques that liars use. All right, let's keep listening.
656 9605.
And this right now is located at, we're at the Thornton Police Department. It's going to be moved to my, so this is kind of, doesn't make sense, but we're here. It's going to be moved to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. He's going to download it here, but I'm going to take it with me, just so you know. It's not staying here.
Okay.
They're not going to retain any of this. This comes with me.
Okay.
Okay?
Is there anything else you want on there? I think that's about.
That's it. I mean, I don't have social media. I don't really have anything else you guys can pull.
Okay.
Is there anything else you know of that could help us?
So this is an interesting statement here. He said, is that it? And she says, I don't have social media. I don't have anything else you can pull. Could she pass a polygraph? Yes. Like I said, 99% of the time, people will not bold-faced lie to you. They will not lie by commission. They will tell you the truth, but they will omit critical details. So for example, when she says, I do not have social media, I believe her. But did she have social media 2 days ago? Did she have a Facebook account 2 days ago before she deleted everything with Chris? Did she have a LinkedIn account or a Telegram account? Or does she not consider Telegram social media? Maybe she doesn't consider those things social media, so she doesn't bring them up. So someone saying, I do not have social media, does not mean that they didn't have it back at the time when they were communicating with someone who killed his family. I've only watched a little bit past here, so I'm curious if the officer will pick up on that. But if I were sitting there, or if you've binged all my videos, if you're a member of my channel or subscriber, that shouldn't work on you. You should follow up and say, okay, I understand you don't have them now. Did you have any social media accounts 2 weeks ago? No? And if she says no, okay. Did you have any other communication apps? Have you deleted any apps in the last 2 days? That would be an interesting question. And then you could also bluff. Have you deleted any apps in the last 2 days? Because we can always search for that on the phone and see what apps you deleted within the last 3 days. And let her start trying to prove her innocence. So the tack the police are taking here seems a little bit too casual for me. And it also does Nicole a disservice. Because if she actually is innocent and is telling the truth here, none of her claims have been verified sufficiently. Right? So she has not proven her innocence, but then again, the police haven't really investigated her properly. I would like them to ask her, have you deleted any apps in the past 3 days? The other notable thing here is she brought up social media on her own, so clearly it was on her mind, which makes me think that she might have been communicating with him on social media 2 days earlier. But then she deleted that when she deleted all of her conversations with him. So just notice the tricks that liars use. They can speak in very specific ways to keep you focused on what they're trying to direct you to. Right, okay, she said she doesn't have any social media. That's not the same as saying she didn't have social media 2 days ago. Or they can be very broad and vague. Right, okay, she said she deleted everything she had with Chris when I asked her if she deleted the text messages. But that overbroadness could also encompass any other apps they use to communicate. Right, so if the officer did press her on if she had any other apps, it wouldn't be a contradiction with what she said earlier. She could say, yes, I told you I deleted everything I had with them. So yes, I did delete my Signal account that I had 2 days ago. But as I already told you, I deleted everything I had with them. Right? Liars can be very tricky. You have to really listen closely.
With this, that is not on this sheet,
As far as like data,
that's on your phone.
no. I mean, everything we did was like text and talk, pretty much. I mean,
There we go again, pretty much. Pretty much is not the same as saying everything we did was talk and text. Everything we did was talk and text pretty much means that that's not all you did. Maybe there was another way they communicated.
and like I said, any pictures that I had, like even if you were to restore all my regular photos, there's so many pictures in there and you wouldn't even know which ones were for him and which ones weren't. But any picture that I wanted to send to him, I sent via text. So if you guys go through the text and the attachments, you will have everything that wasn't said verbally and was done via text. But I think that's it. Like I don't have anything else. As far as like no Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter, no LinkedIn, like none of it. So
Right? None of it. Now, though, present tense. She didn't say I've never had any of those. That would be a totally different statement. Like I said, I haven't watched this far, so maybe the officer will ask her that.
So there was never any of that kind of correspondence. So I think that should probably cover everything you guys will need.
Is there any particular messages that would help me so I don't have to look at? Because whatever's on your phone, I don't know how long we're going to get back to, but let's say is there a particular date or time or message that stands out to you that would be relative to specifically to the investigation into this case that might assist me in understanding why something like this could have occurred?
I'm still in shock that this whole thing happened.
I can imagine.
That's why I gave him the benefit of the doubt.
So notice the officer asked her a question and her response is, I'm still in shock. That's a non-responsive answer. Stuff like that should not be allowed to slide. Right, on the witness stand, if she were being cross-examined, believe me, an attorney would not let that slide. Right, Your Honor, objection, non-responsive. Ma'am, please answer yes or no.
Out for the first day because I was just like, no way. Like, I didn't even think about that. I mean, murder was not on the top of my mind when somebody doesn't come home for an evening, especially.
So now she's finally allowed to talk more. Right, the officer's been plugging in all the words so far. Here she says, murder was not even at the top of my mind. What does that mean? That murder was on the list of possibilities. Right? She didn't say murder never occurred to me. It was on her list, it just wasn't at the top of her list. So what did she and Chris talk about? Did she know about his murderous propensity? Or did she know how much he really hated his wife? Or did he ever confide into her the things he was willing to do to be with her? Because murdering his wife was on her list. It just wasn't at the top. Now, does this mean she helped him plan it? Does it mean she asked him to kill his wife? No. And I think that this is one of the reasons why whenever I do my community polls, if you're a member, if you're a subscriber to my channel, I do these community polls periodically where I take all the things, all the topics that have been requested in my comments frequently that I haven't covered, and I put them into a poll to see what you guys want me to cover next. So the one I did 3 days ago, obviously Nicole Kessinger won by a mile, which is the reason I'm covering her right now and the reason I'm making this video, because I only want to make videos that my audience wants to watch. But I do notice something whenever I do my community polls, that the people who rise to the top are either missing children, or in the case of Nicole Kessinger or Amanda Knox, it's unlikable people, or Nicola Bulley, where it seems to be a conspiracy. And I think the reason for that is when it comes to unlikable people, in particular unlikable women, two camps form on YouTube, right? So Nicole Kessinger is not a likable woman. Amanda Knox was not a likable woman. The McCanns aren't particularly likable. Jada Pinkett Smith is not particularly likable. And whenever I do polls that include people like that, they go to the top. And I think it's because when someone's unlikable, people get very polarized. Commentators, right? Even the people actually involved in the cases, like the prosecutors or defense attorneys, right? That doesn't. It's not limited to YouTube. So what happens is with unlikable women like Nicole Kessinger, Amanda Knox, etc., is you get one side saying that, hey, they're unlikable, so they must be guilty, right? I can't stand her. I can't stand the way she talks, the way she acts, how she's not even crying over these dead girls. She must be guilty. She knew something, right? She was sleeping with a married man. She's a bad woman. She had to have killed him. So you get that side. And then you get the other side, which says, hey, she's unlikable, but we're not sure if she's guilty. So we're just going to err on the side of caution and say that she's probably innocent and read everything that way, interpret it that way. Because we're not sure if she's guilty or not, we're just going to err on the side of caution, which is probably the more reasonable approach. And I think that's what happened with the McCanns as well, right? People weren't sure if they were guilty. So they erred on the side of caution. Hey, I don't want to pack more grief onto these parents who lost their daughter. I'm not sure if they're guilty, even though they are unlikable and kind of, their statements are kind of bizarre for parents of a missing child, but it's safer to err on the side of caution. And then you get people like me, where I don't really have a dog in this fight. I'm not analyzing whether or not Nicole Kessinger is a nice person. Frankly, I don't particularly care, right? Just like Amanda Knox. I don't care if she's likable or not. I'm just listening to her statements. But if I am convinced that she is hiding something and that she's a liar, I'm not afraid to be strict with her and to point it out. So I'm not afraid about erring on the side of caution. I'd rather point out that someone's a liar because I see deception in their words than accuse them of something just because they're unlikable, or err on the side of caution just because I'm not 100% sure if they're guilty. And Nicole Kessinger reminds me a lot of Amanda Knox. I don't see the signs of someone who killed a guy's family. I don't think she was involved in the murder because she hasn't leaked anything along those lines. She's not acting like she knows anything. She's being as candid as she can until it comes to her communications with Chris. That's why this cell phone part, I believe, if you look at the stats on this video, which has 253,000 views, there's a couple spikes. And one of them is right here when it comes to the cell phone. And the reason she might be cagey about the cell phone data and how they communicated, why I think she's lying about it, could be one of a number of reasons. So I'm going to go through those right now. So this is the final card in the deception deck that we will look at today. And it is assessing motivations. So it is in the hearts, the concept suit of the deception deck. And I'll just read you what I have on the card. So first of all, I have a quote from Albert Einstein: imagination is more important than knowledge. And here's the rule. Here's the concept. When analyzing statements, it's important to consider why the individual might be lying, as there are numerous motivations beyond guilt. To discern a subject's reasons for deception, put yourself in their shoes and consider protection. Could they be safeguarding something such as an investment, a relative, or even their pride? 2, avoidance. Are they attempting to evade negative outcomes like shame, jail, or retaliation? 3, gain. Might they be seeking benefits, including attention, financial gain, or closure? And then other. Could they be influenced by other factors such as activism, psychological issues, or a simple mistake? This framework helps in understanding the diverse motivations that can drive an individual to lie. So we need to continue analyzing Nicole Kessinger's interview with the police to figure out what exactly she is trying to hide. And there's a lot more to this interview, and there's a lot more spikes if you look at the analytics on this video. So if you guys want me to do a part 2 of this, I think some of those spikes include her talking about her opinions on Chris's family, which I think will be very revealing. Other things she might be hiding, as well as the day that Chris killed his family, what she was doing. And I think analyzing those things will get us closer to understanding if she's actually hiding guilty knowledge, or actual involvement or assistance in helping Chris plan something. But right now, we can't discount any of these other reasons for lying. She could just be cagey about the phone data because it's embarrassing, or because she's ashamed that she was cheating with a married man, or even that she's ashamed that she was duped, right? That he tricked her and she's embarrassed about it. So we're not going to give her the full benefit of the doubt because she deleted the data and we noticed deception here. So we're still going to go hard at her. But we also need to be careful about saying, hey, she's lying because she's guilty, because that's not a conclusion we can make at this point. Right? We've only analyzed like 10 minutes of this interview with her. I know very little about her, as I said. I know more about the Chris Watts case because there was that Netflix documentary a while back. All right, so let me know your thoughts about Nicole Kessinger in the comments. Also, let me know which part you want me to analyze next in this. I think her
Especially if they just like had some sort of like heated conversation. It's like, okay, you guys are.
All right, I think her talking about his family is going to be interesting, and her talking about the day of would be interesting to look at. So let me know if you are more familiar with Nicole. I know lots of you are. Which part I should look at next. And if you do want a part 2, the way I judge if I'm going to continue a series is how many views the video gets, how many likes it gets, how many comments it gets, and then that tells me, hey, I should continue this series, which is why I've done so many McCann's videos, because whenever I do those, they get a lot of views, a lot of view time, excellent comments, and lots of likes, right? So all the analytics add up. So I know Nicole was heavily voted for. I am intrigued with the case, but like I always do, if the video doesn't get enough views, we'll drop it. We'll move on to something else. Until next time, stay true.